All right, let's get this show started.
Welcome back to MMA Talk. Today's top story, Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury's boxing match falls short on pay-per-view numbers. According to a report from Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Tyson Fury vs. Francis Ngannou did terrible numbers on pay-per-view. While the exact number wasn't given, it was a fraction of the Jake Paul vs. Nate Diaz fight, which happened in August and did 450K in pay-per-view buys. The tweet reads, Meltzer on Observer Radio discussing the Fury and Ngannou pay-per-view buys. I will have the exact numbers tomorrow, but they were terrible. Way below an AEW pay-per-view, possibly 10K for TV orders. I will have the streaming tomorrow. It was nothing close to Canelo or Diaz Paul buys. While the pay-per-view numbers are disappointing, it likely won't impact either man moving forward. For his part, Tyson Fury is still booked for an undisputed championship clash with Alexander Usyk in February, while Francis Ngannou is already in talks with Saudi Arabia for another bout early next year. Michael Bisping has weighed in on a potential Anthony Joshua vs. Francis Ngannou boxing match. Yesterday, reports came out that Francis Ngannou is open to the possibility of stepping into Tyson Fury's vacated December 23rd date. That's according to Boxing News, who claim former WBO champion Joseph Parker and surging heavyweight Zhilei Zhang are contenders to face the Predator. Another big name considered as Ngannou's next opponent is Anthony Joshua. However, Michael Bisping believes it would be a big mistake for Joshua to take the fight. Speaking on his BYM podcast, Bisping explained why Joshua shouldn't take a fight against Ngannou.
There's also this to consider, because if you're Anthony Joshua, and off the top of my head, I forget, he won his last one, but he had a couple of Hellenius, I think it was. He got beat by Andy Ruiz, he got beat by Usyk twice in a row. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a bit of a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
Considering that he's lost 3 in his last whatever, granted over a couple of years or whatever it was. But it's still a risk to come, because look at what Tyson Fury just did. And I'm sorry to say this if you're a Fury fan, but the honest statement is that his stock dropped.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury's stock has dropped. So if you're Anthony Joshua, I would say, if I was managing him as well, say, hold on a minute, no man alive should be going out there fighting this guy just yet, because there's not enough tape on him. There's not much tape on him. It was his first ever boxing match. He shocked the world. You know, for someone like Joshua, can't afford to risk a loss to Anthony Joshua. You want to see more footage. You want to see more tape. You want to see the rhythm. You want to see the shot selection, the timing, and all the rest of it. Right now, there's one fight, and he almost beat Tyson Fury. So I don't know if they would necessarily take that just yet.
While we're on the topic of Ngannou, his coach, Erick Nicksick, shared an early breakdown on the Deontay Wilder fight. Francis Ngannou recently revealed that they're in talks with Deontay Wilder's team about a potential fight in boxing or in MMA. Speaking to Jimmy Smith on Unlocking the Cage, Coach Nicksick predicted what would happen if Wilder and Ngannou fought in MMA. Hear it from Coach.
You know, I think the boxing side of things is a lot like looking in a mirror, I think, when it comes to our styles, where, you know, Wilder might not be that polished of a boxer per se, but where he's unpredictable is the way the punches come out, the power which they come out of. I think those things would be kind of like, you know, be a fun challenge for us in a lot of ways. But where if it were to be MMA, it wouldn't last around. I mean, when Tyson Fury came walking out of the bathroom, I had to watch Tyson get his hands wrapped. He came walking out of the bathroom, and the first thing I looked at was his legs, and I was like, oh, bro, we would chop this tree down bad. And then so I said to Tyson, where he was wrapping his hands, like, bro, you're built like Gru. You got this fucking... We were cracking up. So,
can't take a leg kick, man.
Exactly. I think stance alone, like, you know how these boxers with their bladed stance, that would just give us leg kicks for days. And I think if one of these guys were to cross over to MMA, they would have to change their stance, and I don't think they would understand what we would do to those legs right away. And then not only that, like, one takedown, it's a wrap.
Brendan Schaub has criticized Dana White for letting Francis Ngannou leave the UFC. Speaking on the most recent episode of his Thick Boy podcast, Brendan discussed how Dana White's ego has led him to make the biggest mistake ever in combat sports. Schaub believes that Dana not getting involved in Tyson Fury vs. Francis Ngannou was a huge mistake for the UFC.
And Here's what bums me out about all this. As much as we don't want to say it's UFC versus boxing, it was even more UFC versus boxing than Conor versus Floyd, because we actually had a chance here. And it pains me to see that Dana White's not part of it, because you have Izzy there, you had Usman there, you had Conor McGregor there, you had Vince McMahon there, you had The Undertaker there, which are all under the TKO banner, right? Then Dana White's ego, he can't give it up. And it's very, very rare where Dana White makes a mistake of this magnitude. He made a royal mistake betting against Francis Ngannou. To be fair, as a businessman, he probably made the right choice in hindsight. Now that we're here, royal mess up. Because you have the most relevant fighter on the planet, and he's not with the UFC. He has nothing to do with the UFC. Matter of fact, he hates the UFC.
Another hot topic is how the MMA community reacted to Conor McGregor's leaked UFC pay. An expert report recently unsealed in the UFC antitrust case reveals strong clues to the pay of top stars such as Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, Jon Jones, and others between 2011 and 2016. Among the largest paydays indicated by the report is the notorious McGregor, who appears to have made approximately $25 million in bouts during that time period, which included his fights against Chad Mendes, Jose Aldo, Nate Diaz, and Eddie Alvarez. For the Mendes fight, McGregor was paid $3.2 million, while in the 13-second KO win over Aldo, Conor cashed in $4.4 million. And for the Nate Diaz fight, he was paid $5.5 million for the first fight and $5.6 million for the rematch. Back then in 2015 and 2016, a UFC pay-per-view cost $59.99. During that time, Conor McGregor sold 6.2 million pay-per-views and earned $25 million when he generated $372 million for the UFC. This means that McGregor was only paid 6.7% of the revenue from the UFC. The leaked information has sparked a massive debate among MMA enthusiasts, and here are some of their reactions. One fan said, and that's just pay-per-views. They did $17.7 million for the gate at UFC 205 alone. Forget about the amount of eyes that Conor brought on the UFC at the time. Pretty much getting them the ESPN deal they got now. Ridiculous, man. Dana doesn't deserve Conor. That bald f*** will pay for his sins. Another fan tweeted, this makes no sense. He had to win those fights to become the champ, Conor that we know today. Now he owns a piece of the UFC. I think Dana has treated him fine, and if he hasn't, Conor would have let us all know. Conor also said in an interview before the first Diaz fight that he made the UFC $400 million in 8 months. Crazy. Dana took care of him in the locker room. I forgot which fighter said it, Bisping or someone. I bet you if Conor only made that amount, he wouldn't be in the UFC right now. Conor should have been paid Floyd Mayweather money per fight with the amount of pay-per-views he sells. Dana really made all the money in that era. As someone who has been watching the sport since the Royce Gracie days, where you need to go through several fighters in one night for the chance at a grand prize of $50K, I never thought I'd see the day where fans would complain about a fighter making $25 million. People hate Dana so much they will argue someone is underpaid who literally makes 100 times their entire family's income. I always said Conor was the most underpaid athlete of all time. Every time he's fought since 2018, he's made the company at least hundreds of millions, and they only pay him a small fraction of it. Here are the top 3 memes you guys picked from the internet today. Third place was found over Instagram and was posted by a user named AsShoppedAsItGets. Second place meme was found over Twitter and was posted by a user named OOCMMA. And the top picked meme was found over Facebook and was posted by a user named Artem. Thanks for watching. If you like the content, smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe to stay in the talk.